Good evening. It's Dr. Tony, your board certified physician, certified executive coach, and I am here with a special guest tonight. Now, as you know, I'm here to help you up-level your career, your relationships. The whole theme of Coaching Week is not settling, building the life you actually want, and putting in the effort, this is our way of saying to you, you can do it too. And the best way for me to do that is to bring in the people who have already achieved many of the things that you might be thinking about. So today we have Dr. Carla Sandy. She has so many things that she represents, but what stands out to me is that she's actually still fully practicing as a board certified OBGYN. We're both sister lock sisters. We both went to HBCUs, woot woot, right? And she also is the co-founder of a multi-million dollar business, sandyaudiovisual.com. Go to their website right now. And so she has a family. She has a career that's thriving. She still loves it. She's passionate about taking care of women and making sure that we face these maternal child health issues that we're suffering with. So, women's health is her passion. I am concerned that some of us are talking ourselves out of that mission or that purpose because we're so busy or overwhelmed. So, I brought her here today. Welcome, Dr. Carla Sandy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and to have a conversation.
When I invited people to the client spotlight, I was thinking, who has really evolved and has a joyful way of just kind of saying you can do it too, and very straightforward. So, first and foremost, with so much going well for you, can you tell them kind of what was the turning point where you said, I think I want to do something differently?
That's a great question. Like many of you, like Dr. Tony mentioned, I wear a lot of hats. So full-time OBGYN, and not only that, I'm chief of my department. So I'm responsible for about 80 or so physicians. And I have two little kids. So I'm holding it down for the older moms. My kids are 5 and 7 now, and I'm married. So I have a whole husband that I work with. And then we have our business, Sandy Audiovisual. And I just want to let you know that sorry. I just want to let you know that, with all of those things, I also was really active in my church. I was involved, in the choir. I was cooking every second, Saturday, providing food. I played instruments. So I was showing up in different places, playing violin and piano. I was on a lot of committees. I was everywhere. And I remember it was after I had my daughter, my second child, I recognized that I was being pulled in too many different directions. I mean, I knew it. I was exhausted. I was tired. I was still operating. I was still taking call full time. And I started cutting things out. And I started, kind of saying, okay, let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of that. But I'll be honest, I didn't do enough. And I knew deep in my soul that it wasn't right. I could tell. I'm like, I shouldn't be this frazzled. I shouldn't feel like I'd fall into bed exhausted. I'd wake up at the crack of dawn to do all the different things. And I met Dr. Tony. So I met Dr. Tony. We both went to a Peloton event in New York, and I met Dr. Tony. I had not really heard about coaching, hadn't really ever thought about coaching, and met Dr. Tony. She tells me she's a coach. I'm like, what's that? So she what it is, and I'm skeptical. I'm like, well, how can a coach help me? And I remember Dr. Tony asked me to name one of the best athletes I could think of, and it was Serena, tennis player. And she said to me, "Doesn't she have coaches?" And that stuck with me. And I thought, you know what? I'm ready. I want better control over my life. I want, to feel, I want to wake up every day and feel like, okay, I got the day under control. I'm here, I'm present for all the things that I do, and I was not feeling present in any aspect of my life. So I took the plunge, I took the leap, and I hired Dr. Tony. And listen, it has been life changing for me.
Can you see the joy and energy coming from this woman? This wow, I could leave now. I mean, I want you to let us know if you're catching the replay, because this is one that if you don't catch it live, you really want to catch it later. Let us know where you're watching from. We have someone here from Tennessee. I'm not able to see all of our followers right now, but please comment, let us know. And if you heard something that she said that resonated with you, I heard exhaustion, I heard not getting enough rest, I heard doing the most. I mean, the translation here, and she forgot to mention she was in the choir too. She's doing everything for
Yeah.
everyone. And, why don't we talk a little bit about, the desire to do well, but those little things add up. So it seems benign. Talk about how it crept up on you.
So, it crept up on, I didn't start out like this, okay? So it definitely crept up on me. And I think, when you talk about being a high achieving kind of Black woman in certain spaces, especially like in medicine that are traditionally white spaces, they're traditionally male dominated spaces, we've had to learn to navigate that as Black women, right? And in order to navigate those spaces, and even just getting through undergrad and medical school, you definitely internalize the message that you need to be the best at everything you do. Everything you do. There's no flexibility, there's no leniency, there's nothing like that. You have to be the best. And I took that same kind of attitude with me. It got me through residency training in OBGYN, and it got me to that first job. And I'm ambitious, and I've always liked administrative work. And so when opportunities started presenting themselves at my job, I always said yes. So if someone said, "Hey, can you be on credentialing committee?" Yes. Hey, we need somebody to be the lead for this project. Yes. Can you be on the Medical Society of DC? I practiced in Washington, DC, on the board of directors. Yes. And when I would look at things by themselves, it sounded very reasonable. Okay, the board only meets every other month on a Monday from 6 to 9. That's not a lot of time. That's 3 hours every other month, right? I'm in the choir. The choir rehearses Monday nights, but we only sing every third Saturday. That's not too much time. You can easily knock that out. The credentialing committee, it only meets every third Wednesday of the month. I can do that. And that's how I rationalized every single thing I said yes to. I actually didn't say no a lot. And I'll be honest, you get rewarded, right? So you say yes, you get rewarded, your picture or whatever gets in the little company email. Um, you know, People are saying, yay, your boss is thrilled, Dr. Sandy's on all these committees. And it did afford me, I was able to move up in the company, right? So as far as I was concerned, it was working. Okay. I was on all these things saying yes. I'm getting promoted, if you want to think of it that way, on the administrative side. And so why would I need to change that? And so one day I looked up and it was too much. And it was crushing. It was so crushing. I started dreading everything because all of those, it's not a lot, adds up to a whole ton of time. And I think one thing I wasn't doing is taking into consideration my changing life. I entered this, I was single. And by the time I was married with 2 kids, that does change. Relationships change what you're doing, but I never ever stepped back to say, hey, you're married now. You really need to reassess what's going on. I never did it. I just kept adding stuff on. And, I reached my breaking point, essentially.
It's funny that I love talking to clients because I can hear that you made the transformation that we wanted you to make. I don't have to say much because y'all are already evangelists of the new life you have. You're like, everybody should have this. I had no idea how liberating it was. But yesterday was all about assessment. So day one of the coaching week was about assessment. And I gave them a 2-question assessment. And if you want to join, make sure you go to drtonymd.com/kickstart, because it's never too late to kind of sit back and start taking that assessment when you're starting a new project. Oh, I'm a new mom. That's what Lauren talked about yesterday. She said, hey, I got some magnificent job offers, but I'm not taking any of them. I was tempted, but I don't know how motherhood's going to feel. I'm not sure. I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off. We put our money to the side. I'm not going to jump in. So you said a lot. You said a whole mouthful. And when you came to me, something you didn't mention that I think I should bring up to the table is part of that assessment that I saw that stood out to me that you didn't say a lot about was the commute to DC. You don't live in DC, ma'am.
Yes. I initially was living in DC and my job was 5 minutes away from my house. I
No
got married,
problem.
moved to Maryland, and my 5 minute commute turned into a 1 hour commute. So now I'm commuting an hour on either end of the day, and then which required more childcare. Suddenly I need childcare from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. because I have this hour commute on either end. And I did that commute for 10, 11 years. And it was, and again, you say to yourself, it's not that bad. I will admit the first time I did it, I might have cried a little bit because
You got used to it.
I was like,
Yeah,
what's happening? But you adjust, and I think a lot of us are really good at rationalizing things in our brain, and then I started taking the train. So I was like, okay, even though it's still taking me an hour, I'm on the train. I can listen to podcasts. I can, blah blah blah. No, I usually was exhausted, right? Making sure I didn't fall asleep to miss my stop, coming home, or scrolling aimlessly through social media. So it wasn't even like I was using that time. But yeah, Dr. Tony's right. On top of all of that, I had this massive, massive commute that was also sucking the life out of me.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm just going to speak to my high achievers who are listening. If you're on replay, let us know. If you have a question for her, it's okay to ask later. I'm in contact with these people. They're part of my life. Okay. Even when you leave and graduate off into the world, we stay in touch. As a sisterhood. It's a community, right? Here's the thing you need to hear underneath all of this. We talk ourselves into a corner, and it's not so easy to figure out what we want when it all was a part of who we were. We've attached our identity, right, to surgeon, doctor, mother, person on these committees and boards. We've attached a lot of who we think we are to those titles and so forth. So when I meet you, y'all are trying to defend your position. And I'm like, tell them a little bit about how coaching can be spicy.
Oh, it's so true. Dr. Tony was good for me because she doesn't take any BS. And even when you try not to commit, she'd come back to you the next session like, what, let's go back to this thing. And, I have a great example of that. So, I practice in a large multi-specialty group. And one of the advantages of practicing in a large multi-specialty group is that we have options. And so as an OBGYN,
Yeah.
I had an options of not, operating, not taking call, that type of thing. And by the time Dr. Tony had met me, I had already made the decision to stop operating and, doing major and minor surgery because I knew I was like, I was doing too many things. But one of the first things Dr. Tony had me do was kind of create, tell me what my ideal life was like. And just to let y'all know, sometimes we're so caught up in all of the minutia that I don't know if I even knew what my ideal life looked like. And it forced me to think about what would my ideal life look like, because I was so busy on that treadmill of achievement that I never stepped back to say, did I like where I was actually going, the direction I was going in? And so, once I kind of voiced what I wanted, one of the things that came up was, should you continue taking overnight call? And, for an OBGYN, that's a big part of our identity. So we deliver babies, and the way you deliver babies is you got to be at those babies. They're disrespectful. They come when they want. They come at 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, and I indicated that I no longer enjoyed that part and I wanted to stop. But I was scared. And one of the things Dr. Tony did was kind of get to the root of, why are you scared? Why are you concerned? Oh, I'm chief of the department. I'm this, I'm that. And she's like, what does that have to do with taking call? And really, it had nothing to do with taking call. I just put those two things together in my head and made one like related to the other. I mean, my job wasn't going to let me go. They weren't, I wasn't going to get demoted, but I, in my head, had made this the way it was supposed to be. So I think I was scared, even though every time I walked into the hospital to take call, I didn't want to be there. I physically just didn't want to be there. And what Dr. Tony did is kind of gently forced me into setting a date when I would commit. And initially, I set some wishy-washy something, I don't know, a year or two out. She's like, mm-mm.
I could feel the energy. You know what did it for me? I just want to give them a heads up that having an intuitive coach, I'm very intuitive, right? Like what you're not saying, I can feel it. And so what you weren't saying, I asked you a very poignant question. Like I felt like your response was poignant anyway. It hit the nail on the head. I said, but how do you feel and how long does it take you to recover from call? And you were like, way longer than it used to.
Yeah, absolutely. It would take like a couple days. Whereas when I first started out, I was good, and I think it was just mentally, I was not there. I was not invested. And once Dr. Tony got me to make that commitment, I did it. And let me tell you, of everything that I've done through this whole coaching process, that is probably the biggest thing that changed my life the most, because and I'm still and this is the thing, I'm still practicing. My patients are still my patients. The parts of medicine that I like, I'm still able to engage with without a lot of the other stuff that I didn't like. And and it's not like I didn't put my time in. I've been taking call for almost 20 years and I just never put those dots together. So
That's me. That also, let's talk a little bit about mentorship around that. When you're trying to define your career, when you're trying to make an adjustment to life in Maryland, no longer wanting to be in DC, you're thinking about, well, wait a minute, I need more time with my children now because you're getting a little older, things of that nature. Then the pandemic pushes that right up against your forehead, whether you like it or not. If you hadn't done that coaching, what would your life, if you hadn't redefined everything? Your mentors are people who live in that type of thinking. If you go to them, they'll say it's not that bad, just it's only once a month, just keep taking call. That's how they think. But when you know that you're now more concerned about your family, what would have happened if you hadn't made those changes?
I'd be in the same position, and I think it would, especially with for me, kind of the disruptions of the pandemic. My son's in elementary school, back and forth with virtual schooling, childcare challenges through all of this, it would have been so much harder, to do and to navigate. And I think that that feeling of dread that I would get walking into the hospital would it just be magnified, and it just wouldn't be in the place I am now, with making a decision that really needed to have been made a while ago. But it did take Dr. Tony making me work through all of my insecurities, frankly, around a lot of this. And I think so much is just framed in that context of being a Black female physician in the spaces that we're in. And so you're, just showing up, and we all know we can't show up and say what we mean. You know that. You've known that from the beginning, or else we wouldn't be here. So you kind of internalize that also to your life a little bit. And instead of being honest with yourself about what you mean, you may be using those same kind of, I call them coping strategies, to kind of navigate the world of medicine. So the pandemic definitely accelerated, I think, a lot of decision making, caused a lot of introspection that may not have happened before. But I was definitely on that path already. I just need that good kick in the pants.
Yeah, in my case, I was just making sure they really understood that, you made a decision when we met, it was in 2019 fall.
2019.
2019 fall. And so we met, we had this organic, connection. We were like, hey, we have those things in common. We're getting along. And then we did a little bit of work. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go over here and do some things. I'll talk to you later. I feel like I'm doing better. Honestly, the push of the pandemic helped her say, oh, no, we're jumping in. We
Yeah.
have work to do, and I'm ready to do it now.
Yeah. Because I did dip my toe in. Definitely it was helpful, but I needed the full experience.
It's a transformation. Let me tell you, Dr. Carla is not someone. It's like Lauren. You guys are actually, rare birds because when it's time to get honest with yourself, you're like, okay, fine, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Our assessment is a deep dive. So prior to coaching, you were kind of staying on the surface, and then we had to dig deep because of the business. Let's talk a little bit about coaching and investing in yourself and in your business, because you really made a deeper, serious lockdown commitment on both while we were working together, and it revolutionized everything. From what I could see.
Yes, and so one thing I think we all have to realize, it's really hard to separate our personal lives from our professional lives, from our, whatever we have going on. It's all intertwined. It's all there together. And so, especially as you go through a coaching process, a lot of times, you uncover other areas that need to be worked on. And in this case, it was our business. So we have, I co-founded a business with my husband, Sandy Audiovisual. We've been in business since 2010, and we do live streaming and AV installations, productions, that type of thing. My husband works full time in the business, and I also am semi full time in the business.
You were when I met you. You were really. Whew.
I was deep in it, and handling a lot of. I handled all the books and the finance, the invoicing, making sure we get paid, all of that kind of stuff, and it was draining the life out of me. I think one of the first things I said to Dr. Tony was, I need help with these aspects too, and so we ended up doing a whole bunch of business coaching, actually, and and then my husband, because we run the business in together, his name's Colin. Colin got pulled into it too. So he ended up being part of the coaching also, because it was, again, all intertwined. So Colin is going to pop in.
I want to just say that it's in everybody's best interest, if you're going to work with a spouse or work with a friend, or start a venture together with someone, you got to really start to learn how you're going to communicate and set up systems. And I have a background in corporate America and finance, and these things kind of come natural to me. So being a coach, it just made it a little easier. But I invited Carla. I said, you know what? For y'all to be a successful powerhouse duo and really take the company to a higher level, you're at this 12-year mark. What does that look like for you guys? And it took both of you. Tell us a little bit about that. Welcome, Colin.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, and I just want to let you guys know he is an attorney by trade. So these are two big brains. They're really smart people, very capable people. But when you're venturing into something new and it's your baby,
yeah,
it's your baby. You're in it. It's a little different than trying to figure it out on your own. What was this experience like for you, digging in and assessing the business?
Let me tell you. I mean, I don't know. I might have just walked by Carla while she was on a Zoom call with you, and I go, how did I get sucked into this? But let me tell you, Dr. Tony has been absolutely amazing. I mean, the coaching we received really revolutionized our business. I mean, really. I mean, it's we're well into seven figures. Multi-million-dollar business. It's so funny. If you change your focus, you really see the results, and that's really what Dr. Tony helped us do, was to change our focus and to laser in on certain things, certain deficiencies, certain things we were doing that we really shouldn't be doing, that we needed to offload, and to help and it's not just money wise too. I mean, we won the most awards that we've ever had, right, in the past year for our business. Right. Mm-hmm. We've hired more people than we ever have. We've had more business than we've ever had. And this is all during a pandemic. things aren't the business that the sector that we're in is not doing well. We did extremely well considering. So I can't imagine if things were normal. What we
You wouldn't
could.
be able to keep up.
Yeah, but it really has been revolutionary. There's something to be said about not just working hard at something and you just
Yeah.
keep plowing away at it. That coaching is good. Coaching is, I think, essential to really what's the word I'm looking for? Concentrate on the things that are going to give you a return on your investment. You only have so much time, so much energy, so much resources, and to really identify what's going to give a return for not just your business, your personal life, your everything that you want to do, before you don't want to do anything else. Right?
Right. Thank you for wrapping that in a bow, because I know you were more peripheral, but I was just I felt like just talking to one founder of a business that is trying to grow and expand, that has so much experience. Can you also maybe just touch a little bit on the difference in how you guys approach who you want to work with after coaching? Because initially I was hearing, not some clear defined corners on what works for you, the Sandy Audiovisual visual team.
Yeah. So I think one of the things we really learned is to value the product that we put out, and to make sure that the people that we're trying to market to value the product that we want to put out.
Yeah.
Right. That has been essential. I think has made a key difference in our business. And again, concentrating on the things that are really going to give the return, to the things that make you feel good, the things that pay the bills, the things that keep your business running, the things that maintain your reputation. Um, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that.
Absolutely. I'm really, really proud of your teamwork. Congratulations on all of the awards you guys have won. And I have a feeling that you're going to 10x the business in the next 5 years, just because now things are laser focused and you know what you want and the type of people you want to work with. I hear wonderful things about your team as people as well.
Yeah, well, we're fortunate. I mean, I think we gathered a really good crew, and um, our clients especially appreciate that. But good to see you. See you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, I knew he would be, if I invited him along, because honestly, you can't do it by yourself. And that teamwork takes a whole lot of communication and coordination. And that's one of the things I coach you on is, how do you work with your spouse and in a relationship that's better?
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is you had us do these personality tests. And that was also interesting in terms of our styles and our communication styles and how we communicated with each other, both personally and professionally, because we work in two separate kind of spheres. And so that was really useful. And then as we went into kind of hiring employees and even something as getting systems, we didn't have systems in place. And I don't think either of us thought about it in any way until Dr. Tony was like, well, where's your book with the systems? Like, where is that? Show it to me. I'm like, what does that mean? And so going, going through a process of getting systems in place. And so, working with Colin, I would say like, okay, I got some homework, and he's like, what,
What are you talking about? I'm out of school.
but we can definitely see, and now we think of things differently. And so when something comes up, we've been able to get some pretty hefty certifications from the federal government, the requirements we needed to reach. And now we are approaching it more from a systems, like, how are we going to take this certification that we have? What are the systems we're going to use? We hired somebody to help with that. What are we giving them to be successful? And that's not the structure that we had going into this. So I'll say it was I was not thinking about Sandy Audiovisual in our business when I hired Dr. Tony. I was thinking about Dr. Carla and how is Dr. Carla going to make it the next 20 years? Because I knew I was not going to make it the next 20 years the way I had been functioning. But what I got in it, like I said, that's why I said it's one of the most transformative things that I've done, because it touched every aspect. Coaching touched every aspect of both my personal, professional lives, and professional life being the physician and professional life being the entrepreneur. And I think because Dr. Tony is an entrepreneur, sometimes she would have suggestions or thoughts around, just being an entrepreneur too, so it was really, really helpful. And it really did, like Colin said, help us to kind of up level our business. And I will honestly say, because we now have 4 full-time employees, and when I know, right?
We did not have that number before.
Oh, when I started with Dr. Tony, we literally had hired our first one, and then the pandemic hit. But now we have 4, and it's like we're growing. And I think a lot of that growth is when you start putting the systems in place, getting rid of all the extra stuff. And I'm just going to tell y'all a funny story. So when we started this business, we had no money, right? So Colin and I, we financed our business through our jobs. That's how we got our what do you call seed capital. So we used to do everything ourselves. Anything we could save $1 on, we would.
Right.
And, so one of the things I used to do is print business cards. We get the little card stock from Walmart or wherever, and we print them. We had our little templates. Yeah. And can I tell y'all, even when we crossed 7 figures, I was still printing business cards. And it's just never thought about it, because you're so used to doing things the same way. And literally, and I'm ashamed to say, it was probably only 9 months ago, where we paid $10 and had somebody print, I don't know, 1,000 business cards. Like,
listen,
literally, so even though I've had the coaching now. At this point, I'm graduated. Okay.
It's a process. Give them some relief that this is a process. It has to sink in, and then you say, "Oh wait, I'm doing that thing I used to do." The shift is it's like practicing medicine or practicing skills. If you have to keep saying, "Oh wait a minute, let me regroup."
It's like literally you're always reassessing. And so the business card thing made me laugh, because when Colin came home with the cards in the box, I was like, what else are we doing? We needed to have given up a long time ago. And so the process continues. So the skills and tools that I received through coaching, they didn't leave me. I didn't forget them. They didn't go away. They're hardwired into my brain now. So even though I'm the same person, and I'm still living and running the business and that kind of thing, now I'm equipped to start questioning things I've done for years. I never thought about business cards, but I think it's just a symptom of where my mind was and where I need to be. So
I'm so proud of you. I mean, I feel like there's something you just said that clicked in my head, where the way you are now is you actually are catching yourself doing something and stepping in as your own coach. The best coaches actually train you up to not need us. The whole point is that it's a skill set. The whole point is that it's a process. And then once the system of how we do things is part of you, every quarter we should sit down and make the list of nonsense that we still haven't addressed yet. It's a process of offloading and delegating. When I met you, you were holding on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I have to do that. You were holding on to everything.
Oh yeah, certified payroll.
I'll never forget it.
Certified payroll is just a special way the government requires you to submit payroll for contracts that the government or the state is involved in, and it's tedious. And when I met Dr. Tony, I would spend hours on this. And let me tell you,
don't have.
I done hired a whole HR. We have an HR consultant now, and they do all of that. One other thing I want to say about mindset shifting is that, especially if you are caring, if you're a caregiver, so if you have like an elderly parent, you have dependents, you have children, however, a lot of us are caregivers, and it doesn't always have to look like children. Um, you know, we undervalue our time and our ourselves a lot. And I think coaching helped me recognize that I need to stop undervaluing my personal time, my, the value I'm bringing to the home. And one of the things that allows me to be successful, of course, is that I need childcare. So I have a nanny. And
Right.
I've always had it in my head that when my daughter starts kindergarten, I'm gonna let my nanny go. Because why do I need a nanny?
Why do I need a
And
nanny now?
my daughter is in kindergarten. They're in school, right? Now, y'all know good and well that school maybe is from 8 to 3. Okay.
Maybe.
It may be 8 to 3, Monday to Friday, and that there is a whole, the kids get sick, things happen, but I had it in my head because I was, when my youngest was in kindergarten, I no longer need a nanny. And that's where Dr. Tony also, she had a whole session about, you need to surround yourself with the things that will make you successful. And so it again shifted my mindset. My daughter started pre-K. I sat down with my nanny and I said, would you be willing to be a household manager?
Yeah, we had to get a new plan.
And she was. And so now my nanny comes in the mornings. She makes the lunches. She gets the kids out of bed. She makes breakfast. She takes my daughter to school. She picks up both children from school. She does stuff with them until the day, make sure they have their baths and stuff before she goes. And then during the day, she is available for all what I call the annoying things, the cable guy, the this, the that, all that stuff that comes by. She does shopping for me, Spirit Week, any parent will know what Spirit Week is. I gave her a little Spirit Week list and she went off and Spirit Weeked and bought all the stuff. So my child was happy at school every day and I didn't have to do it. And now that I've opened my mind, I'm able to, recognize, oh, dry cleaning. Oh, she can drop that off and pick that up for us. There's so many things that I never thought about. And what I would have done is put myself into a bind, let my nanny go, and suddenly I'm stuck. And now again, I'll be overwhelmed, burned out, stressed out, don't know what to do. And again, it was a coach. It was Dr. Tony saying, you got to think beyond that. Your time is more valuable than that. And that's why I encourage anybody who is caring in any way for anyone that you're caring for, you put those systems in place because you need them for your sanity.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to give them the feeling of, oh my goodness. But really what is underneath all of this is when you come to a coach, you just have to be open-minded that we're going to figure out what in the world is deep down inside that needs to come out, the best version of you. You don't know what it is, I promise you. You're too in it. You're drowning when you come to me half the time. So that's step one. It's just be open to whatever we discover about what you really want. And then number two, we work in phases. You're in phase 3 or 4 of the plan we wrote for you. And in phase 1, the duties and responsibilities weren't the same as they are today, but now you have the system, you have the critical thinking skills to assess the situation, you're communicating differently because you now understand that, oh, okay, who am I speaking with? Let me get my reports out so I can speak to them in the way that's going to be the most effective. So coaching has all of these different impact points, but I also want to make sure that they really heard you. Asking for help is something that my clients tend to shy away from, but I made you calculate your hourly rate, you and your husband, and y'all were like, "Nuh-uh."
She did. It was.
I said, you need a number.
Yeah, it was eye-opening for both of us, and I think that yes, it was. And notice I said was. It was very hard for me to ask for assistance and for help, and I feel like, oh, I love that. Ask for a family house manager for Christmas. Yes, Tony. So, you don't want to ask for help. Like I should be able to, and I grew up in a home. I'm a child of immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a first generation American. So that dynamic there is its own thing because I watched my parents come and struggle in their new country. And then my mother got up every day, fed us back breakfast. She cooked
Mhm.
every day. And this
Right.
is the example. She cleaned the house. This is the example I grew up with. So of course, now that I have my own home, I need to do the same thing. And no, I don't. And I had to literally work through that. And Dr. Tony helped me work through that. No, my life is not her life. And I have to, kind of separate and say, yes, I need help. Honestly, right now I'm working on a personal chef to come in here and make me some meals
It's
because
about time because you're fitness buff and you need to be fueling your body, right?
make some meals. And so again, 2 years ago, I never would have said that because I must cook for my family. And that is true. No, you don't know. And we bring all of these things on ourselves. And I even see it, that dynamic, and like, little Facebook groups and women are like, oh, but it doesn't take that long. Any good, person or organized person should be able to do X, Y, and Z. I do it every night. And no, no,
No,
no.
no.
You need to get the resources you need so you can be the best version of yourself. And I am fully 100% there.
I'm so proud of you. And I want to restate that last phrase because this is not one of these, let's go to the self-care spa version of best version of you, like the refreshed me with great skin. I'm talking, you're an impactful, powerful, educated, highly valuable community leader. If your role, do you think we want, MLK washing clothes? If he's supposed to be giving a speech on the Hill? No, we don't even do it with men the way we do with women. We carry this burden around with us.
Mm-mm.
So, the best version of yourself, ladies, is you doing what you feel is your gift to the world and in your purpose. If you happen to be a chef, cooking is part of that job, maybe, but maybe when you come home, it's not. That's the thing. Maybe that's what you do for your day job. You cook for the president, and then you come home, and somebody else is handling that because it's a chore when you get home. We've got to be able to decide what's best for us so that we can show up for our spouse, our
Yes.
children, for ourselves. And you have a passion to help women, to help your church family, the larger community around you. You're a huge part of our Peloton community. You're running triathlons. I mean, you're always striving, but you can't do that if you wear yourself thin.
No, and that's absolutely true. And that's why, for me, I said this has been so transformative because it really changed my way of thinking. And I didn't even recognize that I was internalizing kind of all these societal norms. Let's call it what it is. And even my mom, who again, very traditional. My parents had very traditional roles in the home, even though my dad would cook and, clean a little bit or whatever. It was a very traditional home. And one day my mom was visiting me a few years ago and she saw me come in from work, cook, and I'm washing the dishes. And she was like, what are you can't do all this. My traditional mother said this to me. And again, I told you before I met Dr. Tony, I had started making some small little changes. And I think that was one of the catalysts that was like, this doesn't make sense. But I still hadn't changed my mindset, right? So even though I had people saying you're doing too much, I hadn't changed my mindset until I did coaching. And that's when I made that big shift. And, you know, and you know what? I heard Dr. Tony say, about kind of that self-care and go to the spa. Now, I love the spa.
We do that. We do that.
I be at the spa every month. In fact, I book my little spa things before I do anything else. So I go get my spa. I love massages, and
Absolutely. But we got to make sure they understand that
that's
while
not
you're in there, you're not worried because you have
smart.
all these things help. You've now been able to delegate in a new way.
Yeah, and I just want to say that when you're burned out, overworked, tired, stressed out, that actually is not self-care. It's not. I got massages before too, but it wasn't self-care. Half the time I was asleep. I was so tired that I couldn't even, stay awake during the thing. But I think now it absolutely is self-care because I've self-cared my whole life. And so now every day when I get up, that self-care is intentionally built in there because I have set up the systems and processes and all the things so that I can show up, rested as my best self,
Yeah.
without all the other stuff.
And because I know what's important to you, and that's part of our initial assessment, I dig in so much, and they're like, "Can we get to the good part?" I'm like, "This is the good part. You just don't know it yet." Because I fight for you when you don't speak up for yourself. I say, "Wait a minute, you told me that this is what was important to you 3 months ago," and you're like, "Dang it, I can't get out of this." I want to make sure that having that reflection and that accountability to what you said you wanted is held up for you so that you can get used to saying no, and you can get used to saying yes to what's on your list. You told me self-care, massages, more sleep, but I said, "So call doesn't fit." And you were like, "No, I want to hold on to it." I said, "No, ma'am, doesn't add up. That's fuzzy math."
It didn't
So
add up.
it wasn't adding up. So how we see ourselves, the outside expectations, if you will, from the community, from society, from our professions, all of that can weigh us down. And I have a client coming on Thursday. Ooh, honey, wait till she tells you her story. But she's also another successful business owner, woman. What we have to do as mothers is a shift. What we have to do when we're deciding to open a business from just being an employee is a shift. Getting that promotion is a shift. All of those things require systems and a new way of thinking and approaching things.
Absolutely.
Well, I thank you for joining us today. You probably laid so much down on the ground for them to pick up and study and take some journaling and some notes. Any parting words for, people are at different stages. Is there any parting word for when should I start thinking about getting a coach? Is there any nudge that you have for them to kind of say, "Oh, well, that's a red flag"?
I would tell you that I don't think there's any perfect time. I think right now is the best time, honestly, because you're living your life right now. And, and the sooner you do that, the sooner you kind of get things into place to live that life that you want to live. I look back and I'm like, I don't look back with regret because, how I lived my life is how I got to where I am. So I'm not looking back with regret, but definitely moving forward, coaching has made that difference. So if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, if, like I tell you in the beginning, I dipped my toe in and then I was like, "Ooh, I need a little more." I'd say that right now is the best time. And there is the other concept that I think a lot of us don't get is investing in ourselves. You
Yeah.
hear the cost, right? And you think, I'm not doing that, because we don't value investing in ourselves. No one teaches us to invest in ourselves. No one talks about it. Not one class, not one thing, not one, it's not something that came through my culture, about investing in yourself. But I have found when I invest in myself, I'm a better mother, I'm a better wife, I'm a better physician, I'm a better entrepreneur. I'm just a better all around person. So you can't go wrong with coaching. And okay, and the last thing, I know I said that last time, but this is really a lot of times you may look at the like, since this is Coaches Week, the different clients Dr. Tony has, and say, "There's no way." I'm so far away from what these women look like, or the stories they're telling. Listen, I was a hot mess when Dr. Tony got a hold of me. I really was. I was all over the place. My skin was breaking out. I looked drained. When I look back and look at my pictures and stuff from then, I had started taking care of, I had started making some changes and taking care of myself, but I hadn't fully committed. You know what I mean? So I was a mess. And now, put a little lipstick and you're like, I don't know if that could be, girl, I was you. I was you. So don't look at us and think that we are on some pedestal. We're up in, we are you. And so just take that first step. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. And you will look back and you'll be like, that little bit of money I spent, well worth it.
Well, on that note, thank you, Dr. Carla Sandy, for trusting me, believing me, also trusting me with your husband and your business so that you could now come here beautiful, shiny, radiant and share this message. And also just being transparent and vulnerable about how things weren't perfect. And everybody probably thought you were doing just fine back then too. So thanks for sharing that. We're actually going to go over to our other platform and we will see you soon. I see a few questions here. We will answer them in Q&A this evening at 6 p.m. in my group. Thanks so much. Take care, everybody.